You're about to watch a video about urban runoff. This is the greatest source of water pollution in the United States. The video will discuss the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permit. We are lucky enough to work and live in one of the most geologically beautiful areas of the country, and everyone has a role in making sure it stays that way. As you view the video, keep the following questions in mind. What is the impact of urban runoff water pollution? What is the NPDES permit? What are the responsibilities for the NPDES permit? What is the impact to GH Phipps if non-compliant practices are used? What are some examples of violations? After the video, we will discuss your personal responsibility to ensuring GH Phipps is compliant with these regulations and review best management practices for controlling stormwater pollution.
Protecting the environment today is important to our future generations. We have to leave them with something as good or better than what we've got.
Urban runoff has always been one of the #1 problems impairing water bodies throughout the United States. If you look at the data that's come out of the water quality inventory reports to Congress, it always shows that urban runoff and stormwater is one of the leading causes of impairment of water quality throughout the entire country.
Urban runoff is the greatest source of pollution to the waterways of the United States. City councils and county commissioners recognize that in order to maintain the quality of life in their jurisdictions, the reduction of water pollution must remain a high priority. Locally, we see the impacts of urban runoff water pollution in these ways: increased health risks to swimmers near storm sewer outfalls, high concentrations of toxic metals in lake and stream sediments, and toxicity to many types of aquatic life. The consequences of urban runoff water pollution are loss of recreational resources, dramatic cost increases for cleaning up contaminated sediments, and impaired function and vitality for our natural resources.
The real importance of the construction stormwater program is to prevent or minimize those discharges of sediment that can have very adverse effects on aquatic environments and water quality in the state's rivers, streams, and lakes.
Under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, the Clean Water Act of 1987 established requirements for discharges from any municipal separate storm sewer system.
The National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, or the NPDES program, is essentially an authorization to discharge. When you get an NPDES permit, you're getting authorization to discharge a pollutant into a river or a lake. Now that may seem like it's contradictory to our water quality goals, but basically EPA is responsible for ensuring that those permits are protective of water quality. We have water quality-based limits and technology-based limits that are put into these permits, which include best practices for stormwater.
Under the NPDES permitting program, the city is required to identify and eliminate the sources of pollution that enter the storm sewer system and discharge into our waterways, also known as MS4.
The MS4 is a very large system. It consists by definition of streets, curb and gutter, any piping system, any man-made conveyance, any ditch on the side of the road. The roads themselves actually are a part of our storm sewer system.
Urban runoff is considered one of the largest sources of surface water pollution, not only in the state of Colorado, but in the country, because it is contributing such a large volume of water to our surface water bodies.
Storm water pollution creates health risks for children, kills aquatic life, and causes neighborhood flooding. By controlling what enters neighborhood storm drains, we greatly reduce damage to personal property, public health, and the environment. Most cities have household hazardous waste, or HHW, collection programs. HHW collection eliminates any excuse for illegal dumping. Cities also use 911 or a non-emergency hotline number for citizens to report chemical spills and illegal dumping into the MS4. The current NPDES permit is the result of years of discussions between representatives of the city, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Colorado Water Quality Control Division. The permit delineates your specific responsibilities for managing and executing storm water pollution reduction programs. Those responsibilities include effectively funding, staffing, managing, and implementing state-approved stormwater programs, reducing pollutants in the MS4 to the maximum extent possible, identifying and eliminating illicit connections and illicit discharges to the MS4, possessing the legal authority to enforce the conditions of the NPDES permit, reducing stormwater impacts associated with development and redevelopment, reducing stormwater quality impacts associated with municipal activities, complying with permit requirements, and enforcing municipal code. Sediment from construction sites is defined by code, the state, and the EPA as a pollutant we must keep from entering the MS4. Various cities conduct anywhere from hundreds to more than 1,000 inspections of construction sites annually to ensure sediment is staying on site and that the site is complying with the NPDES Construction Sites program. City staff provides verbal and written guidance to contractors and owners of sites that are out of compliance. Failure to comply with staff guidance and the site's own permit and stormwater management plan demonstrates a complete disregard for the city's liability under the CWA and must result in a summons to court for the contractor.
To a contractor, time is money, and when we shut down a project, that does cost them money, and hopefully it does get the point through to them that we are serious about it. A violation on a construction site can be lack of maintenance of the BMPs on the site, chemicals such as concrete truck washout, let's say some silt fence laying down, check dams in a waterway that need to be maintained, cleaned out, have debris that's backing the water up and potentially cresting the check dam. The majority of the contractors out there, I believe, do want to keep the waters clean, and the ones that don't are the ones that hurt us.
When a contractor ends up in court, it's not because it was a frivolous or arbitrary or capricious act. They show up in court after a process. They receive verbal requests to fix their problems. They get written requests to fix their problems. They may have their work stopped to fix the problem, and only then will they actually be cited and receive a summons to court.
As an inspector, support from your superiors is definitely important. We need the support from our courts to get our point through to these people that we are serious about this.
The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the EPA also conduct construction site inspections and typically issue fines to the contractor and owner of all non-compliant sites. In 2006, the EPA issued $1.2 million in fines to 4 developments in Colorado with their National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits. The jurisdiction where fines occur may also be liable in these instances if the state or EPA can show negligence.
We have to comply with the requirements of our stormwater permit because enforcement actions from the EPA and from the state are a certainty. Across the United States last year, the EPA fined $3 billion more or less. In Colorado alone, they fined $7 million for violations of stormwater permits. The state of Colorado also fines, performs enforcement actions, supplemental environmental projects, consent decrees, and last year, for CDOT alone, they were fined $500,000 for errors and omissions on their construction sites.
The Water Quality Control Division is anticipating increasing our oversight and field presence when it comes to regulating construction sites in Colorado. We are also anticipating increasing our inspections and oversight of the regulated municipalities that we've issued permits to, and making sure that those municipalities are doing their job related to the program that they've committed to.
In 2008, the division issued 63 formal enforcement actions for stormwater violations. The division issued fines for stormwater construction violations that ranged from $4,500 to over $500,000. The division fined stormwater violators $1.5 million for stormwater violations. Pursuant to 258608 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, the division's authorized to assess stormwater penalties of up to $10,000 per day for each violation that occurs at a stormwater site. An enforcement action may not only include a penalty assessment, it may also include injunctive relief that requires the violator to clean up or remediate the environmental impacts caused by the stormwater violations. The cleanup activities associated with stormwater violations can be very expensive and can entail, requiring very complicated and additional federal permits to do activities in the stream channel itself.
An example of an enforcement action that the division has taken against a construction site would be the T-Rex project, in which case we went out, conducted inspections of the project, found the site to be in violation of our permit requirements, and then took an enforcement action to bring the site into compliance.
Typically, small municipal court fines to the contractor and property owner are ineffective due to the small dollar value. However, combining a fine with the requirement for attendance at an erosion control class or a construction inspector class is more useful and instructive as a consequence. Along the Front Range, the Colorado Department of Transportation has approved Red Rocks Community College courses, CETC 150 and 151, as examples of educational tools for courts. Similar courses exist on the Western Slope, and all these college courses require 2-day attendance to obtain certification.
The Water Quality Control Division feels that it's very important to not only have a robust enforcement program, but to also have a very involved education program so that we are clearly communicating to the industry before we even get out to do inspections that this is what we expect and here are some tools for you to use in order to help you comply.
One tactic a judge might use to settle an enforcement case is to require the violator to perform a supplemental environmental project. A supplemental environmental project is a mechanism that the departments develop to mitigate administrative penalty assessments. By having a violator prepare a supplemental environmental project and perform that project, the department offsets or mitigates the penalty amount assessed against that violator.
The most significant consequence is that you don't want to create a culture of non-compliance. It's very easy for construction site operators, homeowners, or any of the other people that are affecting the water quality in the MS4 to not take pollution control seriously if there is not a consistent enforcement message.
As a statewide team, we permit holders must monitor, identify, and eliminate all illicit discharges to the MS4. We must enforce municipal code and the CWA as they pertain to our permits per federal and state mandates. If National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit holders fail to actively enforce the conditions of our permits, not only can state or federal agencies take actions against us, but third-party entities such as the Sierra Club or the National Resources Defense Council can and will file suit against our own jurisdictions.
We honestly need the support of municipal court judges and folks in the field when they see problems with water quality, with permit noncompliance, to report it, and at the same time when it gets back to the municipal court judge, we need to make sure that those contractors aren't being given a slap on the wrist and let go when the trade-off is that the city can be fined millions of dollars for the same offense.
These are our waters. This is where we swim, this is where we fish. Protection today will lead to use of those waters tomorrow. And an environmental responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility.
It's important for a community to come together to protect the environment because we can't all do this alone, and we have to take a group approach to preventing this sort of activity and this sort of degradation of our waters. We have to all buy into it, we have to all participate, and we have to all care.
In addition to the need to be compliant, GH Phipps takes a lot of pride in this region and enjoys a long-standing positive reputation for sound environmental practices. We are part of Colorado's Stormwater Excellence Program. We want to extend that reputation and continue to be a trusted name in construction. For your part in this, we're going to review some of the best management practices and other considerations to make when on a job site. The term Best Management Practices, or BMPs, is often used to describe the controls and activities used to prevent stormwater pollution. BMPs can be divided into two categories: structural and non-structural. Structural BMPs include silt fences, sediment ponds, erosion control blankets, and temporary or permanent seeding. Non-structural BMPs include activities like picking up trash and debris, sweeping up nearby sidewalks and streets, maintaining equipment, and limiting parking or directing foot traffic to limit the impact of dirt tracking. Housekeeping is important. Everything must be stored in its place correctly. All trash must be disposed of in the appropriate containers or dumpster on site at the end of each workday. Locate waste collection areas away from streets, gutters, and storm drains. Waste collection areas are often best located near construction site entrances. Do not overfill dumpsters, and when dumpsters are nearing capacity, notify Phipps site management that the dumpster is ready for service. All concrete debris and waste must go into the concrete washout area or movable concrete waste containers. Hardened or cured concrete may be disposed of in the dumpster. Do not wash out tools, paint sprayers, or equipment onto the ground. Tools and equipment must be washed out in a designated contained control area. If job site equipment has a leak, it must be repaired immediately. Know where the spill kits are located and respond immediately to keep liquids from storm inlets. Notify your supervisor if you detect any leaks. Store hazardous materials such as fuels, concrete, sealers, solvents, fertilizers, and any other chemicals so that they are not exposed to stormwater or weather. These materials should be labeled properly and regularly check that no leaks are present. All construction liquids must be secured and located as far as possible from storm inlets. Fuel storage areas will be coordinated by the Phipps site management. Restrict vehicle use to designated entrance and exit points to minimize tracking of sediment out onto the streets. Where necessary, use additional controls to remove sediment from vehicle tires prior to exit. In addition to the potential contaminants we've discussed, you may also encounter job sites that have harmful materials that pose health risks and may pollute the air and water. Some of these materials include asbestos, CFCs, lead, mercury, PCBs, and exit signs and smoke detectors, which may contain radioactive material. If you are working on a job site with any of these materials, you will be notified and trained how to handle the situation. Most importantly, if you have any questions about any materials, do not assume it's safe. Ask your supervisor for guidance. See something? Say something. If you see something unsafe, fix the issue, or say something to your supervisor. Let's wrap up the material we've just covered in this video. Urban runoff is the #1 cause of water pollution in the United States. It is everyone's responsibility to protect the environment. Non-compliance with the NPDES regulations could lead to fines, job delays, a negative reputation, and environmental consequences. Familiarize yourself with best management practices, or BMPs, for each potential pollution source. Housekeeping is important. Everything must be disposed of and stored correctly. If you notice a leak or any other potential issue, notify your supervisor right away. If you're unsure about any material, don't assume it's safe to handle. Ask your supervisor for direction. Thank you for your time and attention during this video. Together, we can protect the environment that we all live in and make sure it's a safe, clean place for everyone.